AppScaling Educational Series, creating an Amazon AMI and preparing it for installing AppScaling. As part of our continuing educational series, we're going to show you, using your AWS account, how to create an Amazon machine instance, also known as AMI, and prepare it for use and installation of AppScaling. Once you've gained access to your Amazon account, simply click EC2 under Compute. Notice in the middle of the page under Resources, you'll see Launch Instance. Simply click the Launch Instance button and you'll see a list of all the different types of AMIs that Amazon provides. For this exercise, we're particularly interested in the Microsoft Windows Server 2012 R2 base server. It's very important to note and to understand that AppScaling runs on any Windows platform. And when I say any, I mean Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10, and any of the server flavors. Why is this important? Because no other application in the world can take a single user software system like a Windows 7 box and turn it into a multi-sessional user system. In short, AppScaling turns your single user system into a server, a host server for AppScaling. Additionally, why that's important is because now you can run native Windows 7 applications on a Windows 7 environment that it's intended to run under and supported by, and literally serve it up to thousands of end users. Once again, no other product on the market can deliver that particular feature. So once you've figured the server you want, you click Select. And you're presented with the Choose an Instance Type page, which is actually step 2. It is pre-selected T2.micro, which is a free tier, it has free tier eligibility. Notice it only has one CPU, 1 gig of RAM, its instance storage is EBS only, and its expected performance is low to moderate. Also, what's not shown on the screen is the fact that it has a single drive, a C drive, with only 30 gigabyte of data space available. If you choose that as your particular system to bring it up on, you can simply click Review and Launch. However, in our instance, because we do have a few things we need to set up for this server, we're going to go ahead and configure instance details. Step 3, Configure Instance Details, actually shows you a recap of the number of instances, the purchasing option, networking, subnet, IP address, where you want to join a directory, etc. Here's where I mentioned you can increase the storage. You can select up here on the top the size of the gigabytes of your C drive, and you can change it from 30 to 100. You can also change the different type of volume that you want it to be. You can also click the Add New Volume button as well and create a new drive, like a D drive, E drive, F drive, etc., with as much RAM gigabytes as you want on it. Next is the tag. This is really for your key pairs, and at this point we're going to pass by this since we already have a key pair, and I'll explain that shortly. But configuring the security is extremely important because 2 of the 3 prerequisites happen at this point. Those prerequisites are the need for 2 ports to be open externally for users to access the environment. We do this by clicking Add Rule, leaving it default protocol to TCP, typing in 491 as required, changing the source from custom to anywhere, clicking Add Rule once more, selecting HTTP, which is port 80. It defaults to anywhere. So now we have the 2 of the 3 prerequisites in place for AppScaling's ability to run. We're going to review and launch. It says we have a 2012 R2 base. Instance type is a T2 micro, 1 gig of RAM, 1 CPU, EBS only, low to moderate. Here's our security group settings, and we're going to click launch. If you don't already have a key pair created, you will need to create one. You can see in this drop-down box that you can say create a new pair. If you choose to create a new pair, and you will need to if it's your first time here, it will create a PEM file that you will need to download and safely store somewhere. You will need the information in that PEM file to retrieve the server's password once the server is up and running and created. So now I acknowledge that I have access to the private key, and I click Launch Instances. It gives me a status that says the instance now launching, some other pieces of information, and now we go to click View Instances. You'll notice at the top that it says pending, and it has an indicator that it's being worked on. The status check is that it's initializing. While this is happening, you can go ahead and give your server a name. So we're naming this server AppScaling. You notice now it's changed from pending to running. So while the server is running and the status checks in respect to how healthy that server is and that everything is in check, we're going to head and do the 3rd of the 3 prerequisites required to make this system readied and install AppScaling on. And we do that in the world of AWS by creating an elastic IP. So we create an elastic IP by clicking on the elastic IP under Network and Securities and allocate a new address. Are you sure you want to allocate a new address? Yes, we are. So now it says new address request succeeded. 52.11.158.206 is in fact the IP address of our elastic address. We've got one final step at this point that we need to do is we need to associate this IP address directly with the server. So we do this by clicking Associate or Associate, and if we click in the instance name, you'll see it chooses our instance. If you have multiple instances running, it would show multiple instances, and you simply pick the correct one. For our case here, we're going to pick AppScaling and click Associate. So now we can see that this IP external address is associated with this instance, and its private address behind the firewall is 172.31.31.87. Now, if we go back to instances, although our system is still initializing, and I click on AppScaling, you will see clearly that the public IP address has now been assigned to it. So this is how you set up and ready a server for installing AppScaling. The final step of this, while it's still initializing and setting itself up, is to physically retrieve the user ID and password for our particular server. So we do that by taking the content of the PEM file that was created or your private key, selecting the server, go to Actions, and get Windows Password. There's two ways you can accomplish this. You can either paste the private key into this window, or you can browse for it on your local computer and upload it. Once we've done this, we simply click Decrypt Password, and right here you will see is the password created for this box and is the password that will be needed in order to RDP access it and then install AppScaling, which is another part of our continuing education series. So we're not going to keep you any longer. The status check initializing will take several minutes to happen. When it's completed, it will show 2/2, and then your server is fully ready to access and then begin the AppScaling installation. Thank you for attending and have a great day. Thank you for attending the AppScaling educational series.